teams. Let me see those hands again. Hang on now. Hey, everybody jump.
You're tuned to Off the Ball, the most petty and ill-informed sports programme on radio. Parting is such sweet sorrow. You and the papers replay the game and the fans' awards in Scotland. I'm Stuart Cosgrove, he's Tom Cowan, and you're tuned to the odd couple of Scottish football. Indeed, well, parting is such sweet sorrow seems to be the theme coming out of Liverpool FC. We don't spend a lot of time talking about English football, do we?
No, we don't.
No,
we don't spend a lot of time.
But
No.
I'm going to flick this to Scotland right away, which is, when has a manager or indeed a senior player left your club with the same kind of warmth and glow of a firm?
Yeah, there's no like, I get yourself to good
you
riddance.
go, and take your
The first, I must say, the first one that I thought of that, and he was absolutely wished well, particularly because he had signed a contract to help stabilise Motherwell and make sure that we got money rather than running away for nothing. And the fact that he'd come through the ranks at Motherwell, and the fact that he was an excellent player, and the fact that it was a gimme that he was going to move to a bigger club anyway. I give you Mr. David Turnbull.
Very good. Can I just ask you this? The ranks he came through, were they rank at the time?
Yeah, well, but you know what? No long after he had his injury and that, and then before he left, I remember him coming on against St Mirren in a midweek game. And we realised, this boy's a class act, because he came on, he'd been out for a while, and we thought any inkling we had that we were going to be able to hold on to him, whatever. He kind of, in the 15 minutes that he came on as a sub, he kind of ran the show, and he looked head and shoulders above everybody else in the park. It's not quite, of course, worked out from certainly as I would have imagined at Celtic. Seems to me when he comes in, he does the bizzo, he plays well, he scores goals and all the rest of it. But definitely David Turnbull. When he
can I ask you, has there ever been a manager that's left in a warm embrace?
Mark McGee the second time. We had rose petals for Fir Park to the airport. No, it's like
it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It is a difficult one, because you think, right, who has done it doesn't tend to happen in football, does it?
No.
You know
well,
what I mean? That's not how managers tend to leave.
No, it's not. And Davidson, of course, leaving us recently, but it kind of, there's a real heavy heart because we'd struggled in the last half season with him. If you go back, and Paul Sturrock, he went to Dundee United, bigger team, quote unquote, the team he'd played for as a player, and to some extent the fans had a sourness about it.
But really, when the dust had settled on Callum Davidson, please tell me it was plaudits that he was getting.
To this day there's a cult that don't like him, but I actually did like the guy, and for me, wish him well at Queen's Park. But you'd have to go back for St Johnstone to Bobby Brown, former Rangers goalie, and who became our manager and then went on to manage Scotland.
Right.
He went with a lot of goodwill because he was going to a promoted post.
Right.
And to some extent, similarly, Willie Ormond.
So basically, apart from anything else, I kind of mind the last time I says, well, I must have a look at the English fixtures.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, when are Liverpool next up? At home in Norwich in the FA Cup tomorrow. So that's the one to watch. That's going to be the entire COP, given him. There's a great clip that you must have, tell me you've seen it online. Was when Ray Clemence moved to Spurs.
Yeah.
And when his first time back at Anfield as a Spurs player, the camera's almost at his back coming out the tunnel, and he runs down to stand in the goals in front of the COP, and what an ovation he gets for the Liverpool fans. Now, this will be something else in the morning.
What would you pay for a 2-0 Norwich win?
Oh, no, great. This is off the ball, of course. Absolutely. But, because our thing is as well, don't get me wrong, courtesy of those amazing Nashers, he always comes across as the big smiley guy, the jocular guy, and all the rest of it. But, I know neither of us have much regard bad for English football. We don't cover it, but the amount of times he gets absolutely slaughtered, quite rightly, you'd have to say, when he moans about what other clubs have had to spend and stuff.
Yeah.
And immediately, the minute he opens his mouth in it, they were like, folk just list the players that he's brought in, and for these mammoth fees, you know.
Yeah.
So. He'll definitely get the warmth. He seems quite. I'd love to get him as a guest on here.
Yeah.
I would absolutely.
I believe he
love that.
needs the money.
Well, aye, there we go.
Well, the thing is, look, he's gone, or he's going rather, that's more to the point. How will he go? He'll go with a lot of support from Liverpool fans, and in lots of ways, he's been a defining manager in England. So the question really is there an example at your club in Scotland where a manager or a senior player has left and there's been such a warmth of kind of...
Nothing but good wishes.
Yeah, Dave Mackay of St Johnstone, our cup final winning captain, a guy who's had a long career, never put a foot wrong for the club, much loved, of course soured his reputation by taking a coaching job at Dens. But all of that aside, great
Get your nominations in. And in terms of bowing out, our second topic is based on the fact that we've got my old pal Davy McCarthy, who's joined us, who has just finished up after 29 years as a football writer, football-stroke sports writer, and a very decent one at that. He's finished up after 29 years at the Record. So we're talking about you and the papers.
Yeah,
There's
well,
Davy.
wait a minute. You mentioned the Daily Record. That does seem like undue commercial prominence.
Well, that's the paper from which he has left.
Ah, yes, which is a rival to the Sun.
But we're going to broaden it out. No, it's not. The Scottish Sun. You need to start getting things right as well.
Aye.
But anyway, so Davy is bowing out. I bumped into him early the new year, and end of an era for Davy. But 29 years though, nice wee pension, and his weeks now, his days, certainly Saturdays, only governed by having to go to a game to file a match report.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to love this because Davy's a great sport, and what I'm going to actually try and kind of get out of him is the crisis days at the Record when a big story has broken, or when they're at war with a football club, or when something has happened that's put them into
proper old school days on the editorial floor.
The dramatic moments.
Everything.
All of that, yeah.
But we're asking about you and the papers now. It's almost too broad a subject for me, who's I've had, I don't know how many years now, 32 years have I been involved with a newspaper. Stuart for years and years and years, and for many publications. But I'll just give you some wee tidbits. Here we go, right? So random stuff, me and the papers. Starting off young, as you know, Stuart, when I used to love writing my letters into the Daily Record, and primarily the Sunday Mail, because they would pay money for them. Once slaughtering and winning the £10 prize as a result, I slaughtered an edition of Blue Peter.
Wow.
Blue Peter were doing a big... Mind they had the big... what was it called? The money thing at the Totalizer. No,
Aye, I remember it, yeah.
And they were raising the money this particular year for famine in Africa, right?
Right.
And then after, who would that have been at that time? Simon Groom. after Simon Groom...
So it was he, a BBC children's presenter.
I've not thought of that before. The clues were there. How could you employ him? No, dear old Simon Grimm. He's got a very, very clean record as far as I'm aware. But it was that era of Blue Peter. And what was great, Davey will acknowledge this as well when he comes in. And any newspaper editor or former editor out there will be nodding their head sagely. They love to encourage young people to get the paper, to get involved in the paper, to be seen buying the paper. So if you basically sent a letter to any of the newspapers back in the day and put your age in brackets after it, right? If you were like, anything, 11, 12, 13, 14, I was doing it up to about 16. You knew that was going to get published. And if there was money to be won, I told you just recently I get the ScotRail, the British Rail voucher, years gone by for slaughtering the state of the train.
Yeah.
Me and my dad travelled on back from Blackpool to Motherwell. But on this particular occasion, and I thought, oh yeah, beauty. I was like your Greta Thunberg back in the day. There'd been just as many folk wanting to give me a slap, but Kerching, it was cash. They had the big totaliser thing, right? You've been sending in your milk bottle tops and you've been cashing them in there. Oh, we've got £75,000 going to help the starving in Africa.
Yeah.
Right, and back over to you, Janet Ellis, mother of Sophie Ellis Bextor.
Yeah.
Back to her. Right, well, Tinkerbell, or whatever the cat's name was in Blue Peter, had her birthday this week, and they brought out a big cake.
Yeah.
So they just done this thing. They just done this thing about the
famine in
starving
Africa.
Ethiopians, and they brought out what looked like a 7-tier wedding cake
Yeah.
for a cat.
Yeah.
Right. So, I was right there. The handwritten letter into the rasps and roses in the Sunday Mail, and I always remember I used the word deplorable.
Deplorable.
So I think I was maybe 11 or 12. I thought it was deplorable that they had a birthday cake for a cat after begging us to give them money for starving people. Kerching. I think it was 20 quid even, maybe I got in a day.
You know what? It was a wee world there because my old mucker Dave Belcher, who used to be at the Sunday Post, he allocated the letter of the week. That was one of his jobs, right? And my mum used to get postal orders off him, right? And it was for unbelievable cack. Things like, "Dear sir, I'm alone in thinking fish suppers are smaller these days." Things like that. Letter of the week, you know.
You're naive to think that's why your mug at the post office. David Belcher, the old rascal. I'll give you an army cut of daft, but you'll remember this episode, Stuart. Remember the day I came in to the old building, it would have been at the BBC, and opened up my emails, and the emails back in the day were forwarded at the touch of a button. The ones that went into the Daily Record for me, ping, they came straight to my own account. And that particular day, every day, the subject was the Grill in the Corner in Glasgow, the Steakhouse in Glasgow, the Grill in the Corner in Glasgow. Your review today, Tom. Your review today. Your review today.
Oh, remember this when you linked it to a porn site?
It was a steakhouse, Glasgow city centre, Bothwell Street, no far from the side entrance or exit, if you prefer, of Central Station. And I certainly won't repeat it now, but it's haunted me for years. I was only one dot or one hyphen away. That was the only difference between the parent company of this hotel, this restaurant, which was a small chain, and basically a hardcore porn site. I happened to publish the wrong www. Address, and there was so many folk. Now, when I saw these things come up on the Saturday morning, and the magazine, the paper was just out with the paper on the Saturday morning, I thought, I know what's happened here. Before I even looked at it, I thought, folk they don't get the fact this magazine was published 6 days ago, and I bet there's been a fire or something at the restaurant, and they're saying, how can you have a review in when that place went on fire? But no. A lot of these folk had read it that morning, clicked onto the link, and it took them, there was no intro, there was none of that stuff, just straight in. And there was the Gurners. There was a woman who appalled, lying, looking for compensation. I had only opened today's review, Tom, and I clicked on that link just as I lifted my 3-year-old granddaughter onto my... away. Other folk had a good idea. There was a young couple, I always remember, said into me. They says, Tom, we were thinking of going to that restaurant tonight, but after looking at the website, we've decided just to have a day in bed. I thought, good on you. And because it was a steakhouse, my favourite bit of correspondence, somebody said, I went to that link, Tom, for your steakhouse restaurant. Now I know what they mean by well-hung beef. So it was brilliant. I've so many happy, daft, wonderful, tragic memories, but you and the papers.
Yeah, now look, there's lots and lots of Scottish football connections there to do with your club. Are they well covered? Do you feel that you've been traduced by the papers over the years?
What have you always loved about the papers? What do you hate about the papers? I'll tell you what I hate now in terms of I'm going to be utterly biased here for all the years I've been in newspapers, but folks say, let's say, I bet they've levelled it even at Davy once, something they've read with Davy. It's because of guys like you that folk are only buying papers now. Now, I hate that, right? Because
how do you know if you've no bought it?
Technology. We all know that. Now, even though I'll tell you, there is no better way to read a newspaper than having the print edition in your mitts, right? Nobody has cracked that, Stuart.
Yeah.
In terms of the technology. That's the way and the best way and the only way, as far as I'm concerned, to read a newspaper. No pop-ups, no ads, no that. If you see that, of course, there's ads all through a print newspaper. You turn the page, which is a lot easier than trying to get rid of something on your screen, right? But as for folk
what
that
would
say...
you be trying to get rid of on your screen?
Oh, you know what it's like.